is the 12th day of December 2014. I'm Kamene Goro, wishing Kenyans all over the world a happy Jamhuri Day. Many thanks for joining us on Ebra African News this afternoon as we take a short look at the ins and outs of what's been happening in Kenya and the African continent. Now, trust we've got quite a bit lined up for you, so let's hop straight to it. In our top story, President Uhuru Kenyatta today led Kenyans in marking this year's Jamhuri Day at the Nyayo National Stadium. Now, President Kenyatta assured the nation that his government will do everything possible to secure the nation. President Kenyatta also urged all of those who are opposed to the laws that were introduced in Parliament recently that are aimed at fighting insecurity to present their amendments before the House during debate. He further urged the media to exercise self-regulation.
Our Parliament sat to align our laws with the country's security needs, as well as the standards expected by the Constitution. Without creating a new law, we rationalized existing legislation to enable the country meet the challenges of our time. In conducting this urgently, necessary processes and no freedoms are being curtailed. And I want to repeat that. No freedoms are being curtailed unless, of course, you're a terrorist yourself. No part of our Constitution has been violated. Indeed, by enhancing the assurance of our right to security of life and property, my government is trying to enrich our freedoms.
As Kenyans mark the 51st Jamhuri Day celebrations, residents of Kibera slum are celebrating in style after President Kenyatta launched a lighting project in the area. Now, speaking during the launch, President Kenyatta said that there was no justification why the area had been denied such basic services for many years.
Kibera slum, the largest informal settlement in Kenya, is home to thousands of low-income earners. For many years, the slum has not been well lit. But that would be history now after President Uhuru Kenyatta launched a lighting project in the area. Thousands of Kibera residents thronged the Langata sub-county grounds to listen to the president. His message was clear that his government will work with the community and continue with programs to uplift the living standards of residents.
Kutoka taifa letu lipate uhuru, serikali imeingia Kibera na imeingia kukaa na hatutoki hapa Kibera.
The government has embarked on several projects to upgrade Kibera slum, which has had the reputation of being at the center of Nairobi, yet lacks basic services available even in villages in remote parts of the country. Already, a tarmac road has been built to ease transportation within the sprawling slum. The government has also opened clinics that offer free medicine to residents. The National Youth Service under the Ministry of Devolution has been deployed in Kibera to build toilets and clean up sewage systems.
Hii ilikuwa nafasi yetu kuweza kupatia vijana wetu nafasi ya kujikuza, nafasi ya kujisimamia, nafasi ya kujifunza different skills ambazo baadaye wataweza kuziemploy kuendelea na kuinua maisha yao katika biashara zao ndogo ndogo kila pahali.
Currently, there are portion mills being run by NYS in Kibera, but they will be handed over to the youth groups and an arrangement will be made with the National Cereals and Produce Board so that they get maize at subsidized prices.
Na tumeweka posho mills ambazo zitakuwa moja kwa kila kijiji ya Kibera. Tunataka vijana mujiunge, hizo posho mills mchukue. Tumepanga pamoja na watu yetu ya NCPB ya kwamba vijana ambao watakuwa wananunua unga watapatiwa na bei nafuu, na sisi tunataka nyinyi muweze kuuzia unga wananchi wa Kibera kwa 60 shillings kwa 2 kg bag. Ndio wananchi wa Kibera waweze kupata unga kwa bei ya nafuu.
On his part, Deputy President William Ruto said the Jubilee government will fulfill its promises of upgrading informal settlements.
And I want to tell you about our commitment in ensuring that we match the skills that our young people have and the competencies they have with the requirements of the job market, so that we can get many young people to be employable in our nation, to engage in enterprise, so that we can change their fortunes and change the fortunes of our country.
The government has been urged to continue with projects in Kibera to support the youth, whom have been described as full of talent and skills.
Moving to matters, Hague, judges at the International Criminal Court have ruled that Ivory Coast must hand over Simone Gbagbo, the wife of former President Laurent Gbagbo, who is in The Hague awaiting trial. Now, the court also committed another close associate for trial.
All three are accused of plunging the country into a brief civil war in which 3,000 people died, rather than relinquish Gbagbo's grip on power after he lost the 2010 presidential elections to current leader Alassane Ouattara. Laurent Gbagbo and youth leader Charles Blé Gode are in the ICC's Seaside Detention Center, but Ivory Coast has refused to hand over Simone Gbagbo, saying they will try her on charges of genocide in a domestic court. The ICC is not allowed to try cases if domestic authorities are doing the job, but judges said Ivory Coast was not trying her for the same crimes. If the Ivory Coast continues to refuse, judges could refer the matter to the court's 122 member states, who could then decide to impose sanctions.
Moving away from Kenya, the Ebola crisis has taken on a new dimension, with orphan survivors starting to make their presence felt. Now, the Liberian Health Ministry reports that as of last week, there were over 1,000 orphans whose primary caregivers had died of Ebola. Have a look.
As the fight against Ebola continues, all aid agencies in the country are doing their best to stem the flow of the virus. Though the people left, specifically the children, are becoming a major concern. In Banjo, the outskirts of capital Monrovia, many orphans are living in the house of a herbal healer.
In the long term, there's a need for education for the children. Education is a serious need. Many of those children, when their parents were alive, could afford to go to school. Now, there's no need for, there's no education for them.
One Ebola survivor says all he wants is help.
I'm praying Almighty Allah to give me someone to come to my aid for help. I'm asking God day and night to come to my aid for my help, because only God can able to solve our problem.
One organization led by Amos Swabo, who resigned his job to cater for the orphans, is doing its best to stem the flow of the virus.
Today I'm working with 392 orphans, children who lost their parents to Ebola. And our organization has been able to provide some food, some clothes, some shelter for some of them, which has been a serious help to children across Liberia.
Entire families have been wiped out by the virus, but the problem is the orphans. With no one to fend for them, they are the major concern going forward, and something has to be done urgently.
We now move to West Africa, where former military dictator Muhammadu Buhari will challenge President Goodluck Jonathan in Nigeria's forthcoming presidential elections. Now, Thursday's results from party primaries won primaries of a four-party opposition coalition. Here are the details.
The vote on 14th of February 2015 is expected to be the most closely contested since decades of military rule ended in 1999 in Africa's most populous nation and its biggest oil producer. Jonathan was the sole candidate at the governing party primaries, though his election early on Thursday flouted an unwritten party rule that the presidency should rotate between a Christian southerner like himself and a northern Muslim. Dozens of ruling party legislators have defected over the issue, costing Jonathan's party its majority in the lower house of parliament.
With the exception of the Civil War, never before in the history of our country have we faced the level of threat we see today. I assure Nigerians that this government will continue to do whatever is required to provide the security we deserve. It is encouraging that the security situation is improving a little, and by the grace of God, elections will be conducted in all states of the Federation.
The opposition accuses Jonathan, 57, of failing to contain a Boko Haram uprising, which has killed thousands and driven 1.2 million people from their homes. It will be the fourth time at the presidential polls for Buhari, a 71-year-old former army general who is touted to be more likely to succeed in the fight against extremists. Buhari is also praised for fighting corruption when he is in power. Jonathan is accused of fueling corruption in an administration that has confronted one multi-million-dollar scandal after another.
We now move to the West, where African-American congressional staffers held a protest on the steps of the U.S. Capitol on Thursday to protest against the recent controversial police killings of unarmed men.
Dozens of staffers left their desks to hold a mass protest against the Eric Garner and Michael Brown grand jury decisions not to indict the police officers involved in their deaths. The group held their hands up to identify with the Hands Up, Don't Shoot protest that has been symbolic of the nationwide movement.
We must learn to protect one another.
The Washington protest took place on a busy day in Congress, where a spending bill to avert a government shutdown was being debated. Senate chaplain Dr. Barry Black held a prayer for peace before the Hands Up protest took place.
Please don't shoot. Please don't shoot.
Protests across the U.S. intensified last week after the grand jury decision not to charge a white New York police officer in the July death of Eric Garner. The decision came roughly a week after a Missouri grand jury failed to indict a white officer in the shooting death of unarmed black teen Michael Brown.
So that wraps up all we had lined up for you on Ebro African News this afternoon. I'm Kamene Goro. It was an absolute pleasure to have you here with us today as we took a short look at what's happening in the world today. Join me at 8:30 p.m. for a primetime bulletin and a much more in-depth, comprehensive look at the ins and outs of our world. Up until next time, from the entire Ebro Africa crew and family, we're wishing you an absolutely lovely Jamhuri Day and a blessed afternoon ahead.